Hello and welcome to another episode about Georgia Championship Wrestling, one of the top wrestling organizations in the world, probably one of the greatest territories of the 70s and 80s. There was no doubt Georgia Championship Wrestling, which would eventually become World Championship Wrestling. But let's talk about a few guys. And we talked about Tommy Rich a little bit in the last episode. But Tommy Rich and another guy by the name of Buzz Sawyer would have such a great feud. Jack, what is your memories of Buzz Sawyer and Tommy Rich?
Oh, those guys, I thought they were going to kill each other. Even though I was, knew what the business was about, I thought, man, those guys ain't pulling no punches. And I don't think Buzz did very much. From my understanding, Tommy did take quite a beating from that. But I think it really made Buzz's career. Probably Tommy was already made, but I think it elevated Buzz up pretty darn high. And for people who never watched Tommy Rich, if you can envision during this time period a Hulk Hogan or a Stone Cold Steve Austin or a Rock, that was what Tommy Rich was in Georgia. I mean, he was phenomenal. I've seen him walk out of the dressing room before music, and everybody in that building be on their feet just by seeing that blonde hair come out of that dressing room. Tommy was the guy.
Yes, he was. Buzz Sawyer Tommy Rich feud started in Chattanooga, Tennessee, at the Memorial Auditorium, Rodney, and it was the brainchild of our father, Ron West, and it worked out pretty good for Buzz Sawyer and Tommy Rich for maybe over 2 years.
No doubt, and it started in the ring and ended up on the stage there at the Memorial Auditorium in Chattanooga, and it really sparked it. And in fact, probably at that point would have been a good time to have a show specifically for Georgia. But at that time, you were having shows that were in Ohio and West Virginia, kind of overshadowed what was going on in Georgia. And Georgia really deserved its own show that was dedicated for the fans that brought them to the dance. Basically, as far as I'm concerned, that's the way I felt, they abandoned them. They abandoned the people who made them in exchange for people in Ohio and West Virginia. Turned their backs on it, and the people returned the favor. But absolutely, this showed right here that if you took the effort in Georgia, you could draw. So Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer, who are not going to the Ohio, they were still doing Chattanooga and the rest of the towns, and it started drawing again because Georgia wasn't dead. They just abandoned it. So yeah, Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer, tremendous stuff. And they did something similar to the same thing, and they did it in Augusta, and they also did in Columbus. And it was working. And they would go in, they would personalize the Georgia shows that would come from TBS. They would kind of go in and chop them up and put the local footage in back from the auditorium or from Bell Auditorium or from Municipal Auditorium in Columbus. And it started, like I said, it started coming back again. And Dad was telling them the entire time, Georgia's not dead. You're just not doing anything. And that proved it. And Tommy and Buzz was the catalyst to show it. Georgia's not dead. It's just you're just not giving it any attention.
It was also, not only did they fight on the stage, but they went outside in the parking lot and fought to the stage. It was such a great fight that the police officers believed it was real. And that was the thing. They said, do we need, because these guys are killing each other, do we need to?
And it's something that had not been done in Chattanooga in years. We're talking years since that had been done.
Did you ever see any matches live, Jack, of Tommy Rich Buzz Sawyer?
I don't believe I did. That was right after I had transferred to Germany when that really hit.
These matches were tremendous. Chattanooga, Tennessee, they did a thing one night where Tommy Rich was supposed to be on the card. Buzz Sawyer was supposed to be on the card. Buzz Sawyer didn't show up for his match. They had to put someone else in that match. And then it came up time that Tommy Rich was supposed to wrestle. They wasn't there. I think Paul Orndorff took his place. And during the match, here comes Buzz Sawyer in the ring, all tore up, bloody. He comes from the other side of the building and comes into the ring, staggers by, and kind of waves that I believe it could have been Ivan Koloff. I'm not.
I think it was Don Morocco.
I believe it was that Don Morocco. He went into the dressing room all bloodied up, his clothes.
I loved it because Buzz come down the steps and he was laughing. He was kind of laughing all bent up with his clothes all tore up. And then from the opposite side, he came down the stage steps. And then from the opposite side, here comes Tommy jumping on Buzz. And then here they go again, all the way up and on the stage and everywhere. It was awesome.
And so that was being done right there in Chattanooga, Tennessee, was being done in Augusta. Just tremendous stuff was being done. And then our father decides he's going to have a cage escape match. And they have the match, Buzz Sawyer and Tommy Rich. The match is going great. And I believe it was Chick Donovan. That came out and threw the foreign object over to Buzz Sawyer. And as Buzz was getting it, Tommy Rich hit him, picked the thing up, hit Buzz, and beat him. I believe he had to climb over the top of the cage. I believe that's how they did it.
Yeah, up the door. Yeah, or through the door. And the loser of that one got tarred and feathered.
Yes.
Tommy pulled the first feathering on Buzz Sawyer, and then Don Morocco and Buzz Sawyer tarred and feathered Tommy at the end. It's really good stuff. Next show would have been Tommy Rich against Don Morocco, I think. But that didn't end that way. Buzz Sawyer's back out there again, and here they go again.
Just some great stuff done with Buzz Sawyer and Tommy Rich. And I tell you, someone else before we get off here, we got to talk about Bob Armstrong. To me, Bob Armstrong and Bobby Heenan. Jack, did you see the stuff was tremendous?
I sure did. Yeah, it was great stuff. And Bobby, for anybody that never saw Bobby working a little bit in the ring, you missed. I mean, that guy was a selling machine. He was fantastic.
This good stuff with the Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan made it. I don't think Bobby Heenan had the greatest wrestlers at the time.
No. Didn't have to.
He had it himself. They drew great money with that, but Bob Armstrong would probably still to this day be known for his feud with Roddy Piper. That has to go down as one of the greatest things they ever did in Georgia Championship Wrestling. Don't you believe that, Rodney?
Yeah. It was all started because Piper had been there for quite a while, a couple of months actually, doing the commentary and really not involved. And then all of a sudden he starts getting involved with Gary Hart and Kabuki. And then the big thing with Dusty Rhodes, and then Piper started it on Bob, talking about how Bob was riding his son, letting his son do all the work, and he just comes in and makes the tag so he can be the big guy and get the win. And some of that's very true. He was what it looked like. That is what it looked like. But yeah, it was really good, and nobody except. But for Bob Armstrong, I believe that can stand toe to toe with Piper when it comes to talking, and I think he was great.
What did you think, Jack? What did you think about the Piper and Bob Armstrong?
Yeah, I had to go back and watch some of this stuff, but yeah, I loved their confrontations on the microphone. It was just, they were setting up such great stories on the mic. It's almost a lost art now.
It was one of the things that Bob said on one of his interviews. He said something similar to, "I'm not afraid of any man, and especially the one I'm standing in front of right now." I thought was just tremendous. He kept on telling him he was a thoroughbred. He called Roddy Piper what he always called people during when he called himself a thoroughbred. And the stuff was so good. And the moment that they were holding them back on WTBS, and he broke through and went over there, the people, there were only probably, 100 people maybe at the studio?
Between 150 and 200 in there. They were getting quite a few in there.
That place just they went crazy while they were doing it. The only thing that, and Michael Hayes said something, and I don't know if this is probably some truth in it. It did not draw as well as they thought it was. They thought it was going to sell out the Omni, and it did not sell the Omni. I think there was somewhere around 8,000 people there, 9,000 people. It was still a pretty good crowd, but they thought it was going to do 17,000 people, and it didn't. I don't believe it. I believe they're true. I don't think they established that Roddy Piper was a wrestler.
Yeah.
They did not. They did not. And they needed to. They needed to.
Because they just thought he was a commentator in Georgia. So they just thought, well, when I want to see that, Bobby should be able to beat him easily. And I think if they would have established where the stuff he did in the Carolinas and say he's an accomplished wrestler and showed that before that match, don't you think that would have worked better, Jack?
Yeah, I do.
So basically they should have done like they would have done if they would have going to be bringing him in. Show various matches so that when he comes in, he's going to be, I'm leaning my expertise. You've seen what I can do in the ring. There's no need for me to come in here and try to show you. You've already seen how I've established myself. I don't need to prove myself to anybody here and establish. But Piper came from the position that he was calling it straight when he got there, Dave. Yes. There was no in between. He wasn't biased. Not till later. In the beginning, though, first few weeks, he was calling it right down the line.
Roddy Piper changed the scope of Georgia Championship Wrestling. Yeah. I believe he took it from here to way, way up. I think that's how good Roddy Piper was as the color commentator for Georgia Championship Wrestling.
The thing about it is that at that point, everybody copied that. Everybody copied it. And later on, Vince McMahon had done the exact same thing. You had Piper doing it. He had Bobby Heenan doing it. He had Jesse Ventura doing the same thing. And it all started on Georgia Championship Wrestling, which set the standard for a lot of wrestling companies, set the pace. And they were basically, in the beginning, they were the first show on cable and first nationally seen show. And so they did set the standard for a lot of all the territories at the time.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you enjoyed it, give us the big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and go one step further and hit that notification bell. And we will be doing other Georgia Championship Wrestling episodes. So stay tuned right here on Pro Wrestling Inside Out. Thank you, Jack, and thank you, Rodney. And we'll see you on the next episode on Georgia Championship Wrestling.